Sorry, didn't realize it had already started. So we finished part 1. Now we're in part 2, California and Arizona, from 1944 to 1945. Chapter 7, and this is from Sylvia. Do the good and don't look at who receives it. That's the proverb. Sylvia, Poston, Arizona. That confuses me because isn't she in California? You better hurry up if you want to come with me, Sylvia's father said, smiling. For 2 years, she had begged to ride with him when he went to the internment camp to deliver the rent payment to the Japanese family. This was the first time he had agreed to let her join him. Did you guys catch that? For 2 years. That means 2 years have passed since all the other stuff we read about them trying to get into the school. And that means that Aki's family has been living in that camp for 2 years at this point. I'm going to start over, but keep that in mind. You better hurry up if you want to come with me, Sylvia's father said, smiling. For 2 years, she had begged to ride with him when he went to the internment camp to deliver the rent payment to the Japanese family. This was the first time he had agreed to let her join him. Really? Sylvia asked. I can go with you? She rushed to find her shoes without waiting for an answer. She didn't want to give her father a chance to change his mind. A few minutes later, Sylvia was in the Pontiac sedan, that's a car, and they were on their way. Sylvia's father asked, What do you know about where we're going? To the place. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, what do you know about where we're going? To the place where the Japanese family lives, she said. That's right, he said to Poston. And do you know what an internment camp is? She nodded. It's a prison for Japanese people. Not exactly, he said. The people there aren't prisoners. They didn't do anything wrong. Then why are they in there? It's complicated, her father sighed. Some people believe that the Japanese are a threat to our national security. Sylvia didn't understand, but she didn't want to make him regret taking her along because she asked too many why questions. They drove the 250 miles to Poston in 4 hours, with the windows down and the radio on. Sylvia didn't often have the chance to be alone for so long with her father. She liked hearing him tap his hands against the steering wheel and the smell of his aftershave. She liked watching his dark hair flutter in the wind. Along the way, just as the Andrews sisters finished singing the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy on the radio, Sylvia asked, Why don't you just mail the rent to them instead of driving so far? It's my way of making sure they get their money, he answered. Don't they get mail in Poston? They do, but sometimes the censors who check the mail take things. They steal? Some do, he said, and the Munamitsus don't need excuses. They need their money. So censors are people who block certain things from going in or out somewhere. Maybe the wrong people are locked up, she thought. When Glenn Miller's I've Got a Gal in Kalamazoo came on the radio, Sylvia settled back and listened to her father sing along. She closed her eyes, and before long, she fell asleep. There it is, her father said, waking her up. She could see in the distance what looked like clustered warehouses surrounded by a fence. This place sure looks like a prison, she thought, no matter what Dad says. Will I get to go inside? Sylvia asked. Can I meet the girl who had my room? I have no idea, her father said. We'll find out. They left the car, went through security, and then waited in one of the administration buildings. After a few minutes, a Japanese woman, a young man, and a girl, a little older than Sylvia, stepped into the room. The woman wore a plain cotton dress, and her black hair was drawn into a neat knot at the back of her head. Thank you for coming, the young man said. The two men shook hands. Sylvia's father placed his hand on her shoulder. This is my daughter, Sylvia. I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but I'm going to try. Hajime Mashite, the woman said, smiling and bowing slightly. Nice to meet you, Sylvia. This is my son and my daughter. Sylvia's eyes met the other girls briefly. Nice to meet you all too, Sylvia replied. That girl is in the picture had shorter hair, but they have to be the same person, she thought. Her father handed Mrs. Munemitsu an envelope with the rent money, and then the adults began to discuss the farm's irrigation system. Irrigation is how it's watered. Is your name Aki? Sylvia asked. The girl's eyes widened in surprise. Yes, she said. How do you know my name? You left your third grade class picture in my closet. Well, our closet, Sylvia said. You wrote your name on the back. Aki smiled. Oh, yes, I remember. I'm staying in your room, Sylvia said, the one with the yellow walls. Sylvia thought of it as her room now, but in her heart, she knew that it also belonged to Aki. I wonder if it's kind of awkward or if it's exciting. Aki didn't say anything. When I first moved in, I found your doll, the one with the red robe, Sylvia added. It was on the high shelf in the closet. Her name is Miyoshi, Aki said. I didn't know, Sylvia said, so I call her Keiko. Keiko, Aki said. I like that. I'll take good care of her for you. Aki let out a sigh. Sylvia thought maybe she doesn't like the idea of sharing her room. How frustrating it must be to stay behind that barbed wire fence watching us come and go. Come along, Sylvia, her father said. We need to get home. Aki was looking at the ground. I bet Aki wants to go home too, Sylvia thought. Before leaving, Sylvia marveled at how the people inside the camp had built an oasis in the desert. Between the barracks and in the fields around the buildings, they had planted lush gardens and grown tomatoes, eggplants, squash, and other vegetables. In the 2 years they had lived there, the people of Poston had turned brown to green, barren means empty and dead, to fertile, dead to alive. Oops, I skipped a page. They are farmers, Sylvia thought on the way home, just like we are. To the sun and the seeds and the soil, Mexican or Japanese, Mendez or Munemitsu didn't matter. The people knew how to make things grow. And that's the end of that chapter. So now you need to go and record a response to the chapter, a question you have, a thought you have, a connection you have. Record one of those on the spreadsheet on the tab for chapter 6.